My dear friends, have you ever had that one moment when you looked around and felt that nobody truly understands you? You might be surrounded by people, yet something inside feels lonely, unseen, or incomplete. Maybe you thought, if only that one person loved me, appreciated me, or stayed with me, I'd finally be happy. We all have those moments. Whether it's waiting for a text reply that never comes, expecting appreciation at work that somehow goes unnoticed, or hoping a friend will stand by us when life gets tough, and they just don't. But let me share a little secret that life taught me. The moment you realize you don't need anyone to complete you, that is the moment you begin to live fully. Now, please don't mistake this for arrogance or indifference. I'm not saying I don't need anyone, I'm better than everyone. No, that's ego. What I mean is something far deeper. It's the strength to be whole even when others aren't around to validate your worth. You see, for most of us, our happiness is like a Wi-Fi connection, totally dependent on others. If someone praises us, we feel connected and happy. If someone criticizes us, suddenly the signal drops and we feel disconnected from our own peace. Isn't that strange? I remember once meeting a young man after one of my talks. He came up and said, "Gaur Gopal Das ji, I feel like everyone leaves me. My girlfriend left me, my friends betrayed me, and even my family doesn't understand me. I feel like I'm nobody." I asked him, "So tell me, my friend, when they were all around you, who were you?" He looked at me, confused. "I was happy," he said. "Good," I smiled. "Now that they're not, who are you?" He hesitated and said softly, "I'm empty." And that's the problem right there. We have learned to build our identity around others, around their approval, their affection, their attention. And when they leave, we don't just lose them, we lose ourselves. But the truth is, you were always whole. You were always enough. You simply forgot. Let me share a story. Once a monk was walking through a village when he saw a man running, frantically sweating and looking panicked. The monk asked, "What happened?" The man said, "I've lost my cow, my only cow. Without it, my life is ruined." The monk gently smiled and said, "Then you are lucky, my friend." The man was furious. "Lucky? How can you say that? That cow was everything to me." The monk replied, "Because now, without your cow, you might discover who you are without depending on it. We all have our cows, don't we? Maybe your cow is a person you depend on emotionally. Maybe it's your job title, your salary, your social media likes, or your friend circle. We believe we can't live without them. But sometimes life takes them away, not to punish us, but to free us. Let me tell you, my friends, the hardest truth is also the most liberating one. The people and things we cling to for happiness are often the very chains that keep us from it. Think about it. You get into a relationship expecting to find happiness, but soon you begin fearing losing it. You get that dream job and suddenly you're terrified of failure. You buy that car you always wanted and now you worry about scratches. Happiness borrowed from the world is temporary. It's like renting peace. It expires the moment circumstances change. But happiness that comes from within, that's owned property, it's stable, it's permanent, and no one can take it from you. I remember once during my corporate life before I became a monk, there was a big project deadline. Everyone was tense. A boss walked in, frowning, shouting, and adding to the pressure. I was frustrated. I thought, if only he were a little nicer, I'd be peaceful. Later, when I left corporate life and joined the monastery, I realized something profound. There will always be a boss somewhere. Maybe not in the office, but in life. Someone who irritates you, someone who misunderstands you, someone who tests your patience. But if your peace depends on them changing, you'll never find it. True freedom is when you stop expecting the world to behave the way you want and start mastering how you respond instead. One day, a little boy was playing with his toy car. It broke. He started crying loudly. His father came running and said, "Why are you crying? My car is broken." The boy sobbed. The father smiled gently and said, "Don't cry, son. We'll fix it or buy a new one." Years later, the same boy became a grown man. His relationship broke, His job was gone, and once again, he cried. This time, there was no father to run to, but there was still a voice inside him that whispered, "Don't cry, we'll fix it or find something new." That voice was his own. And that's what maturity is. The ability to parent yourself when you can hold your own hand and say, "I'm here for you." You no longer need anyone else to complete you. Others can add value to your life, yes, but they no longer define it. That's what the journey of you don't need anyone is really about. It's not isolation, it's liberation. We will explore this together today. We'll look at why we depend so much on others, how it affects our peace, and how we can build an inner foundation so strong that even when the storms of life come, we don't collapse. Because in the end, when you stop chasing people to fill your emptiness, you realize you were never empty to begin with. My dear friends, the biggest illusion that causes human suffering is this. We think our happiness lies in someone else's hands. We grow up learning dependence. As children, we depend on our parents for comfort, love, and approval, which is natural. But as we grow older, the body matures faster than the mind. Emotionally, many of us never learn independence. We just switch our dependence from parents to partners, friends, and society. When a child falls, he looks around to see if his mother is watching. If she is, he cries louder, because he knows the tears will bring comfort. If she isn't, he wipes his own knees and gets up. That's how early we learn that our pain becomes easier when someone acknowledges it. The problem is, we never outgrow that need for acknowledgement. As adults, we still look around for someone to notice when we're hurting. A friend who listens, a colleague who validates, a partner who stays. And when they don't, we feel unseen, unloved, and unworthy. But life, my friends, is not unfair, it's just a teacher. And sometimes the silence of others is life's way of teaching us to hear our own voice. Let me tell you a small story. Once a young woman came to me after a talk. She said, "Gaur Gopal Das ji, I've done everything for my boyfriend. I've supported him through his exams, his job struggles, his emotional breakdowns. And now that he's doing well, he's left me. I feel like I gave everything and got nothing." I looked at her and said gently, "My dear, you didn't lose him. You lost yourself while trying to keep him." You see, when love turns into need, it becomes attachment. And attachment is like holding sand in your hand. The tighter you grip, the more you lose. We often confuse love with dependency. True love says, "I want you to be happy." Dependency says, "I can't be happy without you." One comes from strength, the other from fear. And fear is the biggest thief of peace. I remember once traveling on a long train journey. A man sitting across from me looked restless, constantly checking his pockets. Finally, I asked, "What's wrong?" He said, "My wallet. I keep feeling it might get stolen." I smiled and said, "Maybe keep it in your bag and then relax." He frowned. No, if I put it in the bag, someone might open the bag." So he sat there the whole night, clutching his wallet, unable to sleep. Not because someone had stolen it, but because of the fear that someone might. Isn't that what we do with people? We hold on so tightly, afraid they might leave, that we forget to enjoy the relationship while it's here. Attachment steals both joy and peace. We say, if my friend forgets my birthday, I'll be upset. If my partner doesn't call, I'll feel unloved. If my colleagues don't appreciate me, I'll feel worthless. But the truth is, their actions don't define your value. Their silence doesn't erase your worth. You are still enough, even when they forget, when they don't show up, when they misunderstand you. Let me tell you something from my own journey. Before becoming a monk, I worked in the corporate world. There was a time when my promotion didn't come through. A colleague, someone less experienced, got it instead. For days I felt upset. I thought they don't value me. I'm invisible here. But later when I reflected, I realized the pain didn't come from the situation, it came from my expectation. I expected appreciation. I expected recognition. I expected fairness from a world that isn't always fair. The mind creates misery when it insists that others must act according to its script. And oh, what a long script we write for people. My friend should check on me. My boss should understand my effort. My partner should always support me. But life doesn't sign our script. People have their own stories, their own struggles, their own limitations. When we understand that, compassion replaces expectation. There was once a man who complained to God, "Lord, everyone I love keeps hurting me. Why do you let them do that?" And God replied, "My child, that's how I make you learn to love without conditions, to care without control, to give without needing in return." You see, pain in relationships isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's purification. It removes the illusion that you need others to be whole. When someone doesn't treat you right, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. It simply means they're incapable of seeing your worth. Don't let someone's blindness make you doubt your light. But I know, letting go is easier said than done, because the human mind craves connection. It's wired to bond, to belong, to be loved. The problem isn't the connection itself, it's the dependence on it. Imagine two trees growing side by side. Their roots intertwine under the soil. They support each other. But if one tree leans completely on the other, both will eventually fall. Healthy relationships are like that. Connected but not codependent. Together but not tangled. Yet many of us cling not because of love, but because of fear. Fear of loneliness. We think being alone means being unloved. But being alone simply means being with yourself. And that can be the most beautiful relationship you'll ever have. Do you know why solitude scares us? Because it introduces us to someone we've ignored for too long, ourselves. When we are alone, we finally hear the thoughts we've been avoiding, the emotions we've been suppressing, and the truth we've been hiding. And facing yourself takes more courage than facing the world. Many people say, "I feel lonely." But loneliness isn't the absence of people. It's the absence of connection with your own heart. When you love your own company, silence becomes music, solitude becomes strength, and independence becomes joy. I once met an elderly woman who lost her husband after 40 years of marriage. I asked her gently, "How are you coping?" She smiled and said, "I miss him, but I'm okay." I realized that for 40 years he gave me love. Now it's time for me to give that same love to myself. What a beautiful way to live, turning loss into self-discovery. The truth is, we are not afraid of losing people. We are afraid of losing the version of ourselves that existed when they were around. But you don't have to lose yourself when someone walks away. You can evolve instead. Pain can be your greatest teacher if you allow it to show you where you've placed your worth. So my friends, the problem is not that we need people. Relationships are beautiful, they make life meaningful. The problem is when we need them too much. When our self-worth, peace and purpose are outsourced to someone else's behavior, that's when we suffer. But the good news is, what's learned can be unlearned. Dependency can be replaced by self-reliance. Fear can be transformed into faith. And that brings us to the next step, the solution. My dear friends, the answer to the feeling that we constantly need someone lies not in pushing people away, but in learning to hold our own hand with gentleness and faith. True freedom begins when we stop outsourcing our peace to the moods and actions of others. And start nurturing an inner friendship with ourselves, because when you become your own companion, you never walk alone. The first step is self-connection. Speak to yourself with the same kindness you offer everyone else, because the moment you replace inner criticism with compassion, confidence blossoms, and you stop begging for validation. Then comes redefining connection. Relationships are beautiful, but they should be chosen, not clung to. Love that suffocates is not love. It is fear wearing perfume. Keep the remote control of your happiness with you. Let others add joy, but never own it. Simplify your emotions. Every harsh word does not deserve your attention. Every misunderstanding does not require a courtroom in your head. Peace arrives when you learn to let certain noises fade. Gratitude is the next medicine. When you count what's right instead of what's missing, you fill your heart so completely that dependency dissolves on its own. Write down 3 blessings each night, and you will slowly notice that joy begins to flow from within. And then, my friends, find purpose. Because when you discover a reason to wake up that excites your soul, you stop waiting for people to give you meaning. Even small acts done with love transform ordinary days into sacred service. Serve others selflessly, not to earn praise but to expand your heart. The paradox is that the more you give without expectation, the richer you feel inside. Anchor all this with faith, the quiet conviction that life knows what it's doing even when we don't. Sometimes rejection is just divine redirection. Sometimes loss is preparation for something deeper. Create daily rituals to center yourself. A few moments of meditation, a walk under the sky, a cup of tea in silence. Because consistency feeds peace the way food feeds the body. And please forgiveness is not weakness, it's emotional hygiene. Wash it. Away resentment so your soul can breathe again. Because holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting another to fall ill. Finally, celebrate solitude. Spend time with yourself until silence stops feeling empty and starts sounding like music. That's when you realize loneliness was never the absence of people, but the absence of your own presence. The goal is not to become a detached rock, but a steady flame, soft, warm, unshakable. You can still love deeply, but you love from wholeness, not hunger. Let people come and go, but let your peace stay. Remember, you are not a beggar of affection, but a fountain of love. And fountains don't chase, they overflow. When you discover that completeness was inside you all along, every relationship becomes lighter, every day calmer, and life itself turns into a graceful dance where you no longer seek someone to complete you, only companions to celebrate with you. Because now you finally know you don't need anyone to be whole. You just need to remember who you already are. My dear friends, everything we have reflected upon means little unless we live it. So let this be your gentle call to action, to begin practicing the art of being whole today, not tomorrow, not when someone apologizes, not when life becomes perfect, but now, exactly as you are. The journey starts in small, invisible choices. When you wake up in the morning, pause before touching your phone and whisper a thank you to life for giving you another chance to grow. When you feel ignored, instead of rushing to prove your worth, breathe and remind yourself that your value never fluctuates with someone else's attention. When you crave company, spend 10 minutes doing something that nourishes your heart. Write, sing, cook, walk, pray. Because every act of self-care is a vote for inner peace. Remember, transformation doesn't happen through grand declarations, but through consistent awareness. Every time you choose calm over chaos, understanding over reaction, gratitude over complaint, you train your mind to depend less and live more. The world will still test you. People will still misunderstand. Promises will still break. Expectations will still fail. But maturity is when you stop expecting the ocean to be still and instead learn how to surf the waves. I once met a man who said, "I'll be happy when everyone around me behaves well." And I smiled and said, "Then you'll be waiting for eternity, because peace is not the result of the world being kind, it's the result of you being centered." Practice this centeredness every day. When anger rises, pause. When loneliness whispers, listen but don't bow to it. When fear visits, offer it tea and watch it fade. Because every emotion simply wants acknowledgement, not control. Learn to replace dependency with contribution. Ask not who will care for me, but how can I care for the world? Each time you uplift another heart, your own heart heals a little more. Make service your lifestyle, not a weekend hobby. Even a smile can become sacred when offered sincerely. And when darkness comes, as it inevitably will, Remember, the sun doesn't stop shining just because clouds appear. Faith is trusting that the light is still there, even when you can't see it. So, my invitation to you is simple. Start your own inner independence movement. Detach not from people, but from the illusion that you are incomplete. Detach not from love, but from the demand that love must always look a certain way. Cherish every bond, but hold them lightly, the way a gardener holds a flower, appreciating its beauty without gripping it to death. When life takes someone away, bless them and bless yourself. When new people arrive, welcome them with openness but without expectation. Let your relationships evolve into sharing, not needing, into celebrating, not controlling. And as you practice this, you will begin to feel a quiet joy spreading through you. A joy that doesn't shout but hums softly in the background of your days. You will smile more easily, forgive more quickly, and love more purely because you will realize that love was never something to get. It was always something to give. And when you give it freely without fear, it multiplies in ways beyond measure. My friends, the world desperately needs such wholeness today. Too many people are drowning in emotional dependence, waiting for others to rescue them, not realizing they already have the lifeboat within. Be that example. Show through your calmness that peace is possible, through your kindness that strength can be gentle, through your authenticity that joy doesn't need approval. Each time you stand tall in your own worth, you silently give permission for others to do the same. So as you walk out of this hall or close this page, carry one thought in your heart: you are enough. You always were. You always will be. Don't spend your life searching for someone to make you feel complete. Spend it expressing the completeness that already lives inside you. Love people, serve them, laugh with them, cry with them, but never hand them the key to your happiness, for that key was given only to you. Hold it close, use it wisely, and unlock the door to a life where peace is not borrowed, but built, where joy is not conditional but constant, and where you finally realize that needing no one is not loneliness. It is the highest form of love, the love that begins within and flows outward endlessly.